The species that broke the galaxy. The United Galactic Council had faced many crises in its long history: wars, interplanetary conflicts, economic collapses, even existential threats from rogue AI and cosmic anomalies. But never, in all their recorded history, had they encountered a problem as baffling, as utterly unsolvable, as humanity. It had started as whispers in the dark corners of the galaxy, assassins failing their contracts, mercenary squads vanishing without a trace, military campaigns ending before they even began, not because of superior tactics or overwhelming firepower, but because the universe itself seemed to be protecting these creatures. And now, today, it had come to this. A full emergency session of the Galactic Council, convened solely to answer one question: why can't we kill them? The chamber was packed with representatives from over 100 species, each of them carrying the same nagging uncertainty, the same fear. At the center of the debate stood Ambassador Trev Zix, a diplomat of the Zenari Empire, his chitinous exoskeleton shifting colors in agitation. He gestured towards the holographic display floating in the center of the chamber. "This is the latest report from the Guild of Shadows," he announced, his voice struggling to remain calm. "It marks the 50,000th consecutive failure of an assassination attempt on a human target." A ripple of unease passed through the room. 50,000. One delegate muttered, "That can't be possible." Trev Zix turned his gaze towards Maddox of the Krell Dominion, a four-armed reptilian warlord whose empire had once subjugated entire planets with ease. "Maddox," Trev Zix said, "your forces engaged human soldiers in the Andromeda skirmish 2 cycles ago, did they not?" Maddox's scales darkened, his claws twitching against the stone table. "We did," he admitted, "and we lost. Badly." "Explain." The warlord exhaled sharply, his throat ridges flaring in frustration. "We outnumbered them 5-1. We had superior firepower, superior technology, superior strategy. The battle should have been over in hours." Trev Zix nodded. "And yet," Maddox hesitated, then growled, "the humans improvised. Things went wrong, and somehow, instead of collapsing, they adapted. They should have died, but instead they won." The chamber grew silent. Maddox clenched his fists. They had no right to win that battle. No right at all. But somehow they turned a complete disaster into a victory. It was like the universe itself refused to let them lose. More murmurs spread through the gathered species. "They're unpredictable," one delegate whispered. "They're unstable," another added. "They're a glitch in the natural order," an elder from the Sheetak Alliance declared. The delegates turned back to Trev Zix, who had been waiting for this moment. He tapped the holographic screen, and a new image appeared. A simple human, a civilian, an ordinary man named Marcus Reed. Trev Zix's mandibles twitched in frustration. This is one of the most baffling cases of all." The display shifted, showing a security feed from a high-rise hotel on the planet Vector 9. It was a perfectly orchestrated assassination attempt. One of the Guild's most legendary assassins, Solaris the Phantom, had been contracted to eliminate Marcus Reed, a seemingly unremarkable human businessman. Solaris had spent years perfecting his craft. He had taken down royalty, crime lords, war generals, targets infinitely more secure and difficult than a random human corporate consultant. But when he struck, the impossible happened. Marcus Reed, entirely unaware of the attack, had simply dropped his pen. As he bent down to pick it up, the assassin's plasma blade missed his throat by millimeters, and in his frustration, Solaris tripped over Marcus's briefcase, knocking himself unconscious against the hotel's minibar. The assassin was found by security guards 30 minutes later, tangled in room service trays and drowning in spilled fruit juice. Marcus? He had left the room 5 minutes before, completely oblivious to the entire event. The footage ended. Silence filled the room. Finally, Trev Zix spoke. "We have examined over 100,000 assassination attempts on humans. Each one ends in failure, not because of human skill, not because of human strength, but because of some impossible accident. It is as if the very laws of probability bend to keep them alive. "This is absurd," a deep voice rumbled. All eyes turned to High Commander Excelver of the Utheri Legion, his massive, armored form radiating barely restrained fury. "You claim that humans are unkillable, that the very fabric of reality protects them. Preposterous. You expect us to believe that a race of primates, barely advanced beyond their own solar system, somehow defies the laws of the universe." Trevzix met his gaze without flinching. "We do not expect you to believe it, High Commander. But the evidence speaks for itself." Zelver's mandibles clamped shut. He knew better than to argue against raw data. Finally, another voice spoke up. A delegate from the Vayari Research Consortium, a species known for its mathematical precision and analytical genius. "There is only one logical conclusion," the Vayari scientist said slowly. "Humans are a statistical impossibility. Their survival, their victories, their ability to turn catastrophe into success, it defies all mathematical models." The statement settled over the chamber like a heavy weight. And then, finally, the question that no one wanted to ask was spoken aloud. "So, what do we do about them?" For a long time, no one spoke. Then, after several minutes of silence, Trevzix exhaled. "That is what we are here to decide. The experiment that should have killed a human." The Galactic Scientific Institute was known for solving the impossible. For centuries, their research had unlocked the mysteries of black holes, harnessed dark energy, and mapped quantum realities beyond the known dimensions. They had answered questions that had baffled civilizations for millennia. And yet, they had no answer for humanity. No logical explanation could be found for why every single attempt to eliminate a human had ended in ridiculous, improbable failure. The galaxy's greatest minds had a hypothesis. If humans truly defied probability, then there was only one way to prove it: a controlled experiment. An impossible scenario. One where no amount of luck, coincidence, or absurd happenstance could possibly save a human subject. That was why Lieutenant Adrian Carter of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps found himself strapped to a chair in the center of the galaxy's most advanced research lab, completely unaware that he was the subject of an experiment designed to prove that humans could, in fact, die. The perfect death trap. Adrian Carter wasn't special. He wasn't a soldier, nor a scientist. He wasn't even particularly lucky, by human standards. He was a mid-tier bureaucrat, assigned to the Galactic Council as part of Earth's first interstellar diplomacy efforts. And now he was sitting in a cold metal room, casually sipping on an alien drink that smelled vaguely like overcooked asparagus, waiting for some xenoscientist named Dr. Zilker to finish setting up his routine diplomatic analysis. Had Carter been paying attention, he might have noticed that the room was completely sealed. Had he looked closer, he might have realized that the floor, walls, and ceiling were made from omniplus, a material known for its absolute inescapability. And had he been a little less exhausted from the bureaucratic nightmare of dealing with interspecies trade negotiations, he might have questioned why 36 high-ranking alien scientists were standing behind a reinforced observation window, watching him like he was a lab rat. But like most humans, Carter was too distracted by real-life problems to worry about whether he was walking into a death trap. Dr. Zilker, a six-eyed, amphibious scientist from the Zenari Collective, turned to his team. "Is everything in place?" His assistant nodded. "The quantum targeting matrix is active. The sequence has been set. There is absolutely zero chance of survival. No statistical anomaly. No unpredictable variables. This test is mathematically perfect." Dr. Zilker exhaled, his webbed fingers twitching with anticipation. Finally, the galaxy would have an answer. The experiment was simple. In exactly 30 seconds, a targeting laser would fire from the ceiling, precisely aimed at Carter's skull. It was guided by a quantum AI, immune to hacking, randomness, or interference. No force in the known universe could alter its trajectory. No armor could block it. No amount of dumb luck could possibly save the human this time. This was absolute, inescapable death. The impossible survival. The countdown began. 10 seconds. Dr. Zilker's breath quickened. His entire career had led to this moment. 5 seconds. Carter stretched his arms and yawned. Man, you guys really like your paperwork, huh? 3 seconds. Zilker grinned. It was over. 2 seconds. Carter absent-mindedly scratched his nose. 1 second. The laser fired. And then Carter sneezed. Hard. The force of the sneeze caused him to jerk his head forward at the exact millisecond the laser should have hit him. The shot missed by less than a centimeter, instead striking the control panel behind him. A panel that controlled the entire security system of the Galactic Scientific Institute. Every alarm in the facility went off simultaneously. A siren blared, warning of a containment breach. The emergency override engaged, locking down the entire building. The room's lights flickered as the AI tried to process what had just happened. Dr. Zilker stared in absolute horror. His flawless experiment, the one designed to eliminate all randomness, all uncertainty, all probability distortions, had just failed. Because a human had sneezed. No. Zilker slammed his fists against the console. The AI isn't possible. The other scientists were in full panic mode. The system is down. Our research servers are crashing. The probability engines are... Wait, did the human just survive? Carter, still seated, blinked in confusion. Are you guys okay? Dr. Zilker turned back toward the observation window, his eyes wide in shock. The experiment had failed. The human was completely unarmed. And worst of all, he didn't even notice. A scientific breakdown. For several long moments, the scientists just stared at Carter, their collective understanding of mathematics, physics, and probability crumbling before their eyes. We need to run another test, Zilker stammered. There must have been an error. A new setup was arranged. This time, the test would be even simpler. Carter was asked to stand on a pressure-sensitive platform that would trigger a perfectly timed plasma burst. If he moved, he would die instantly. The countdown began. 10 seconds. Carter glanced at the scientists. Hey, what's this thing I'm standing on? 5 seconds. Dr. Zilker smirked. You'll find out soon enough. 3 seconds. Carter shrugged. Feels kinda wobbly. 2 seconds. Carter took a step forward. 1 second. The platform collapsed. The plasma burst fired, straight into the floor where he had been standing a moment before. Carter, now standing off to the side, completely unarmed, frowned. I think you guys need to fix that platform. Dr. Zilker let out an inhuman scream. The truth they didn't want to accept. For the next 6 hours, the Galactic Scientific Institute conducted test after test after test. Each one was designed to be impossible to survive. Each time, Carter survived anyway. By the time the final experiment had failed, half of the scientists had suffered nervous breakdowns. Dr. Zilker sat in his chair, staring at the data with vacant, hollow eyes. His entire life's work had been shattered. We cannot kill them, he whispered. It is impossible. His assistant, looking equally pale, muttered, What do we tell the Galactic Council? Zilker exhaled. Then, reluctantly, he began typing up the report. Humans defy probability. We do not know how. We do not know why. But one thing is clear. They cannot be eliminated through conventional or mathematical means. The universe bends to keep them alive. The probability crisis. The Galactic Probability Council had solved some of the universe's greatest mysteries. They had cracked the chaos equations of black holes, mapped the predictive movements of dark matter, and even determined the statistical likelihood of civilizations achieving interstellar travel. But today, for the first time in millennia, they faced a problem they could not solve. A problem called humanity. A scientific emergency. The council chamber, usually a place of quiet calculation and scholarly debate, was in absolute turmoil. Holographic displays of failed assassination attempts, military blunders, and improbable human survival stories flickered in midair as probability scientists from across the galaxy pored over the data. "This is a statistical impossibility," cried Professor Xeroth of the Zenari Probability Institute, her crystalline form vibrating with frustration. "We have rerun the calculations 10,000 times." Her assistant nodded, his tentacles twitching anxiously, and the results remain unchanged. No matter how advanced the scenario, humans do not die when they should. At the head of the chamber, High Mathematician Velos of the Vayari Probability Order closed his 3 eyes, attempting to remain calm. "Let us approach this logically," he said, his voice smooth and measured. "We know that probability governs the universe. Everything has an expected outcome. There are no true anomalies, only unknown variables." The council murmured in agreement. Then, Velos continued, gesturing toward the main holographic display. "Explain this." The footage shifted, showing Lieutenant Adrian Carter's experiment from the Galactic Scientific Institute. Carter, sitting in a chair, drinking his alien tea. The laser firing at his head. And then, the impossible. A sneeze, a tiny, meaningless biological reflex, had altered the outcome of a scientifically perfect assassination attempt. The scientists in the chamber watched in stunned silence. Finally, someone whispered, "It should not have missed." A different scientist, gripping his tablet so tightly that it cracked, added, "That sneeze had a 1 in 4.8 billion chance of occurring at that exact moment." Another researcher, voice barely above a whisper, said, "And yet, it happened." The mathematical breakdown. The council turned their attention to Professor Elzik of the Karthik Probability Academy, who had spent the last 6 months running a deep statistical analysis on human survival anomalies. Elzik stood, his holographic display filled with graphs, charts, and probability distributions. His voice shook as he spoke. "Colleagues, I have analyzed over 100,000 instances of human interaction with lethal scenarios." He tapped a command, and data filled the air. In 96% of cases, when another species is placed in these situations, they perish as expected. But when a human is introduced, the graphs shifted. Lines that should have plunged toward death and destruction instead warped unpredictably, curving, twisting, breaking every known statistical model. "The data suggests." Elzik hesitated, then sighed. "No, the data confirms that humans are not bound by probability in the same way other species are." Another scientist scoffed. "That's absurd." "Is it?" Elzik snapped, pulling up more examples. A human astronaut whose helmet cracked in deep space, only to be saved by a micrometeorite that perfectly sealed the breach. A human general who survived an ambush because he dropped his weapon, bent to pick it up, and unknowingly dodged a sniper round meant for his head. A human scientist who accidentally spilled coffee on a malfunctioning warp drive, fixing it completely because, as it turned out, caffeine molecules interacted perfectly with the faulty circuitry. "These are not coincidences," Elzik bellowed. "This is a pattern." The chamber was silent. For the first time in history, the Galactic Probability Council was speechless. A frightening possibility. High Mathematician Velos took a slow breath, steepling his fingers. "If what you say is true, then we must ask the most important question." He leaned forward. "Is this natural, or are humans a glitch?" A glitch. The word sent a shudder through the room. Probability scientists believed in order, balance, and predictability. The idea that an entire species might be fundamentally broken, that their very existence defied *** logic, math, and physics, *** was terrifying. Professor Xeroth, still staring at the probability graphs, muttered, I refuse to believe the universe is this flawed. Professor Elzek, voice barely above a whisper, responded, "Perhaps the universe is not flawed. Perhaps we are." The thought settled over the room like a heavy fog. For millennia, the council had believed that they understood reality. That probability was the ultimate law. But now, they were faced with the fact that everything they thought they knew was wrong. The council's decision. At last, High Mathematician Velos spoke again. The implications of this discovery are vast. If humans truly defy probability, then they are more than just a statistical anomaly. His third eye opened, a symbolic gesture of deep contemplation among his species. They are a force of chaos. The phrase sent chills through the room. A force of chaos. A species that did not follow the laws of reality, but instead forced reality to bend around them. If that were true, then all calculations, all equations, all predictions for the future of the galaxy were meaningless. A species like this, they could not be controlled. They could not be manipulated, calculated, or eliminated, because no matter what happened, they would always find a way to survive. Finally, Velos turned to his fellow scholars. "We must inform the Galactic Council." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Then Professor Xeroth hesitantly asked, "What? What do we tell them?" Velos exhaled. Then, with absolute certainty, he replied, "We tell them the truth. We tell them that humans are impossible. The assassination that never happened." The Galactic Council had convened emergency meetings before, during interstellar wars, planetary collapses, and existential crises that threatened entire civilizations. But never had there been a meeting so urgent, so universally feared, as the one that was taking place now. Because for the first time in recorded history, the laws of probability have failed. And the reason? Humans. A desperate last attempt. The reports had come in, thousands of them. Failed assassinations, failed sabotage missions, failed wars. The best killers in the galaxy, professionals who had eliminated emperors, warlords, and entire bloodlines with surgical precision, had failed against humans every single time. It was not possible. And yet it kept happening. Now, standing before the council, a Zenari diplomat named Trev Zix addressed the gathered representatives, his mandibles twitching in frustration. "We cannot continue like this," he announced. "If humans are allowed to exist without limitation, they will, intentionally or not, disrupt the natural order of the galaxy." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. The problem was not just that humans survived impossible odds. The problem was that their very existence destabilized the rules that governed all other life. Probability did not apply to them. And so, a decision was made. The Zenari Empire, along with the backing of several major factions, approved one final assassination attempt, a mission so meticulously planned, so mathematically perfect, that there was no chance of failure. This time, they would succeed. The target, Ambassador Daniel Harlow. The target was Ambassador Daniel Harlow, Earth's chief diplomat to the Galactic Council, a man of reason, diplomacy, and patience, one of the first humans to negotiate peace between alien species. He had no weapons training, no combat experience, and no known enemies. He was the perfect target. And the assassin, Sarek the Silent, a name that sent shivers through the galaxy's most hardened criminals. Sarek had never failed. He was a phantom, a shadow, a ghost among killers. His methods were flawless, his contracts absolute. If anyone could kill a human, it was him. His plan, simple, precise, unstoppable. He would poison Harlow's morning coffee, a toxin so undetectable that even the most advanced medical scans wouldn't register its presence. It would take effect exactly 10 seconds after ingestion. A perfect assassination. A guaranteed success. This time, there would be no accidents, no coincidences. The universe would not save the human. The perfect failure. Sarek executed the plan flawlessly. Infiltrating Harlow's residence was child's play. The diplomat was a creature of habit. Every morning, at precisely 6:45 Galactic Standard Time, he would pour himself a fresh cup of Terran coffee. Sarek timed the dosage to the millisecond. The poison would bind to the caffeine molecules, ensuring that the moment Harlow took a sip, he was dead. Then, without a sound, Sarek vanished into the night. The mission was complete. The problem of humanity was solved. But then, something happened. Something impossible. Harlow, still half asleep, stumbled into his kitchen. Yawning, he reached for his coffee. But just as he lifted the cup to his lips, his phone rang. Annoyed, he set the coffee down to answer it. It was a telemarketer, from a planet he had never even heard of. "Sir, are you interested in expanding your intergalactic warranty?" Harlow frowned. "What? No. How did you even get this number?" The telemarketer, undeterred, continued. "Our new premium coverage includes asteroid collisions, plasma fire damage, and even quantum accidents. Would you like to hear more about our exciting offers?" Harlow groaned, rubbing his temples. "I don't listen. I'm not interested. Just take me off your list, okay?" And then, in one of the most absurd, unrepeatable moments in history, his cat jumped onto the counter. In a single swift, indifferent motion, the cat knocked the poisoned coffee cup to the floor. It shattered. The liquid seeped into the cracks of the kitchen tile, wasted. Harlow sighed. "Damn it, Max." The cat stared at him blankly before licking its paw and walking away. Harlow poured himself a fresh cup of coffee. Sarek's flawless assassination attempt had failed. Because of a telemarketer and a cat. The assassin's breakdown. Sarek learned of the failure 6 hours later. He was in hiding, preparing to leave the system, when he received the encrypted transmission. The words on the screen made his blood run cold. "Mission failure. Tar GT alive." Sarek read the report again. And again. No, it wasn't possible. He had planned for everything. He had calculated every variable. He had ensured that no coincidence, no accident, no absurdity could interfere. And yet, a telemarketer, a cat, a spilled cup of coffee. Sarek, the greatest assassin in the galaxy, had been defeated by randomness. His hand shook. His mind reeled. For the first time in his life, he felt fear. Because if not even he could kill a human, then perhaps the whispers were true. Perhaps humans really were untouchable. Perhaps the universe itself protected them. The Galactic Council's final decision. When the report reached the Galactic Council, the reaction was immediate. "Enough," declared High Chancellor Vorik, his voice shaking. "We cannot continue this insanity. Humans are an enigma, a chaos anomaly in the cosmic order. We do not understand them. We cannot control them. We cannot kill them." He turned to the assembled leaders of the galaxy. There will be no more assassination attempts. No more military actions. From this day forward, humans are untouchable. Silence filled the chamber. Then, reluctantly, the council voted unanimously. An official declaration was made. Humans are to be left alone. Under no circumstances, while any species attempt to control or eliminate them, they are a statistical impossibility. The aftermath. Back on Earth, Ambassador Daniel Harlow went about his day, blissfully unaware that he had just survived one of the deadliest assassination attempts in history. He even took a moment to call his phone provider to complain about the random intergalactic spam calls he kept receiving. And across the galaxy, in the deepest corners of space, assassins, warlords, and politicians alike whispered a single truth. Humans could not be killed. Not by skill. Not by science. Not even by the universe itself. And that was terrifying.